scopes, and then the back half behind you is more county history / general history of Rhea County. Of course, you're probably familiar with this fella here, William Jennings Bryan, and of course we've got Clarence Darrow. And the way this is set up is it sort of walks you around from the time of the passage of the Butler Act down there in the corner, all the way around to basically all the events of the trial and then the legacy and the aftermath. And so there's all kinds of neat little things on display down here. Okay, so it's basically just in chronological order. It starts down there in that corner. Yep, it starts right there with the passage of the Butler Act. There's a picture of Austin P. And then this is actually Butler. This is the representative who authored the law.
Okay.
And so there's George Rappelier right there, and it just sort of progresses through the time in Dayton. Of course, leads into the chance meeting at Robinson's drugstore. That's actually a rocking chair from the boarding house where Scopes stayed.
Is Robinson's drugstore still around?
There's a plaque down there. It's on Market in Maine, but
the building's still there.
The building's not. There's just a plaque there it's on a little rock in the ground. You can go down there where it used to be, but the building itself is not there.
Okay.
And we always tell people too, this table and chairs was in Robinson's drugstore, but it's not the table and chairs. Those are in the State Library and Archives of the State Museum. So
okay.
That's where the original is. But that's Robinson's drugstore as it was. And then these are some of the more local or state level people that were well known and influential in the trial. So Dr. Neal, of course, he's a pretty big deal in Rhea County.
Quite a character.
We're very fortunate to have his family's collection. It's not upstairs right now, but we usually keep it here. Our president of our historical society has been indexing and cataloging that, trying to get some sense of form and order to it. But we have a lot of things from his career, not just Scopes related, but just all throughout his time, because he was active for several decades. And then, of course, I've got all of Walter White's stuff. The Historical Society has Sue Hicks's papers. I'm trying to think. The McKenzies are just a big family in Rhea County and Meigs County in general, so I don't know if there's a specific collection for them or to them, but I know that their stuff is around. And then, of course, Stewart and Ralston, they're from Marion County, and so their history is more over in that area. These pictures actually came from the State Library and Archives. They're sort of advertised as never before seen, and some of them may be, but most of these I think actually have been around before, but they just haven't necessarily been published or widely spread. So some of them may be seldomly viewed, but I don't know that they're never before seen. But there's all kinds of pictures and photographs. I think the room in here is where they ended up at. They used to be upstairs, but they wanted to move them down here to sort of get them out of the way. And this is just the little interactive screen. There's more than Scopes on this thing, but it's mainly Scopes. And then this is the real minutes. This is part of the county archives.
Okay.
So this is one of the records that I technically maintain, but it never leaves that case, so I don't have to do anything with it.
Well, you maintain that it's still here.
Yep. And so that's if you want to see the full thing here. Let's see. Oh, come on. I don't know why this thing's like that.
Yeah,
That's true. Come on.
Have you looked at this book?
Oh, yeah. So we actually, whenever we do the reenactment, we have an official copy, like an authentic copy of the book on the table with us. So whenever we're looking at it, they're talking about it, we're actually looking at the real pages.
Have you read it?
Not all of it, no, just a little section on evolution.
It's pretty bad.
It is.
Extremely racist, eugenics, and the whole nine yards.
Oh.
All the stuff that Brian was concerned about. I mean, that book it's been pulled, obviously, but
Interesting.
it was very, very much Darwinist, racist, eugenicist. Yeah, Margaret saying word, please.
The name I was thinking, but I always try to watch my boundaries because I don't want to come across
This is the facts. Yeah.
But you got the full scan on here, because obviously with it being in the case, you can't necessarily flip through, but
Right.
if you wanted to, you could zoom in and check out everything.
That's pretty cool. Do you have a digital copy of that?
We do upstairs. I think it should be. We should have a PDF. I'll have to check with the other archivists and see where it ended up at, because some of the files and things have been moved around over the years. Because, like I said, I've only been here a little over a year, so some things I'm still trying to figure out where they are and how they've been previously preserved. Because technically, even though the county's been around since 1807, the archive's only been around since 2017. And so we're about 210 years behind schedule.
Oh, right. So you're playing catch up.
Oh
So
yeah.
there's a lot of stuff you're figuring out what you got probably still.
Yep, a lot of stuff I'm just going through. Like I said, even the resolution to Brian upstairs, we didn't even know that existed, like the rough draft or anything. We didn't know any record like that would still exist. I actually just sort of going through page by page accidentally pulled it out, and that's when I was like,
It's
whoa.
cool when you find a nugget like that.
Absolutely. Well, and two, I've been looking for the loose files, because each case, and I mean most of them, it looks like to me, have these little loose carded files. And with the Scopes case being a Rhea County court case, it should be there, but we've never found it. So before Tennessee had strict record laws, people, whenever they were doing research, whether it was for just history in general or genealogy, they would come down here and they would look, and I would make a strong case that I'm sure people walked off of stuff that they shouldn't have. And so we're sort of playing the replevin law too, where we're trying to get history back that has previously been taken either indirectly, sort of, what would be the word, unintentionally, or things that did walk out intentionally over the years. Because some people, they didn't take it with the notion that, oh, this is my family, I want to keep it. They took it with the, oh, this is antique and this is historic, especially in the scope sense. Let me sell it.
Nobody will ever miss this.
Yeah, they'll never see this gone.
Yeah.
And so a lot of this stuff is, like you said, playing catch up and trying to make sure that we have some sense of organization maintained, so people can actually access the history of their government's records.
Right.
Because on one side you have the history aspect, which is neat. People need to know their history. But on the other aspect, it's just on the level of government, is transparency. And that, that helps secure honesty and integrity for us as a government. And so we want people to have adequate access to their records.
Sure, and if that kind of stuff is walked away, then it undermines the legitimacy of your property records and all that stuff.
All the good,
What else is missing? What else? I mean, who else has taken something of interest to them that we should have here?
Oh yeah, well, and you have people too that in the past, like I said, whether they're just history enthusiasts or hunters or whatever you want to call them, that's coming around looking for the historic records or whatnot. If they see something that's just old, they want to take it. And then, like I said, with the unintentional people, we had a courthouse fire. I think it was in the 30s or 40s. They said, and so whatever they did, they just threw the windows up upstairs and were throwing the books and the papers out the window, trying to save them from burning. Well, people just walked by and took them, and they never brought them back. And so some of that stuff, like I said, is unintentional. They didn't really think back then, especially, they were like, oh, well, let's just take it so we can save it.
out.
Yeah, they're throwing this stuff away, and so some of it just never been brought back.
Okay.
But yeah, this is sort of the room that catches a lot of eyes whenever people come in, because they like the little screen. And there is more than just Scopes in Rhea County on here. There's a little connection to the State Museum. This thing's actually controlled from Nashville, so it's kind of weird, but it's also neat.
So they look at the content.
Yeah, we can send them basically anything we want to put on it, and they can do it, but they sort of maintain the screen, and we pay an annual fee. It's just started actually, so we can keep this maintained, because the room is kind of built around this screen. We didn't want to lose it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's all kinds of connections on here, so people can not just see what Rhea County has to offer, but a little bit of what Tennessee does too. Let's see. There we go. There's some of my favorite two different pictures and things of the Scopes trial.
Yeah. That's what I've seen before.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is true.
So do you think that's a random book, or do you think it's hunter-specific biology that Scopes is looking at in that picture?
Let's see.
Oop.
That's a good question. You know, I don't know. Could be.
Could be some random book they pulled out just to show it, yeah.
Well, the thing that sort of floored me, of course, you can see all the different things that they sold back there. I don't know if it'll zoom in or not. But whenever we were doing the reenactment, it's sort of my favorite thing. So we actually, our play, our script is not just random words. We're actually saying condensed versions of what they said in 1925. So we try to keep it as close. Yeah. So we try to keep it as close as possible. And F.B. Robinson sold the book, you know, he sold the books that they used, and so he had 100 biology sitting there.
That's true, he probably wouldn't have done it, yeah.
Classroom, that's a really cool one. Some of these pictures I had never saw before coming down here, you know, it's just interesting little
So that's
tidbits.
Ray,
Yep.
Scopes, and Neil, right?
Yep, that's them. And then, well, there you go. Should be quite a few good pictures here. A lot of people, you'd be surprised here, a lot of people come here with the intention of not just learning about the Scopes trial, but learning about the building. The building was built in 1891, and so that's been one of the things I've had to learn really quick is the history of just the building in general, because people come in and want to know when it was built, how it was built, you know, where did the bricks come from, where did the foundation, the rock come from, and all that good stuff. And so I've had to, there again, play catch up and learn some of that history too.
Yeah.
Looking to see.
Was it Cole, I think? Brian, yeah. I don't see Daryl. He may be there someplace.
There's Judge Ralston. I can't tell who that is right there because they're blurry. That looks like General Stewart right there. Jeez. That's Walter White. Brian's son was here too.
Who's that Daryl?
This right here?
No, this guy back here, maybe. But if he's sitting at that table.
This should be the prosecution. That's probably General McKenzie.
Like over here.
Yeah.
Okay.
This might be General McKenzie. I can't tell though with it being blurry.
But this orientation is where's the judge's bench?
Right here.
Okay.
And so this is Judge Ralston. He's probably standing right behind it, if not beside it.
So his back is to the windows.
Yes.
Okay.
And then here is the
There's Daryl.
the defense. We actually had a time. I don't know if this picture's in here or not. Oh, it is right over here. We tried so hard to figure out who this gentleman on the far right is, but we could not put a name with the face.
Okay.
Here's your judge's bench.
Okay.
So that would have been where Judge Ralston sat. And then I'm looking for
That would have been this one right here.
Yep. I'm looking for the big chairs, but I don't see them. Maybe they took them out while they were renovating. The ceiling, too, for HVAC purposes, have been lowered 17 inches, I think they said.
Okay.
The seats would have been. Now, of course, you kind of saw some of the pictures. The prosecution would have sat here, and the defense would have been over here. The way we do the witnesses in the reenactment is they sit up there just to the right of the judge, but in reality, he would have been right here in front of him.
Oh, and down the floor in front?
Yeah, because you can see whenever you have the witnesses testifying, you can see the judge's bench like right behind them.
Okay.
And then your jury actually, in some of the pictures, you can see the jury sitting right here.
Okay. On the few times they were allowed in?
Yeah. Yep. And then of course, but yeah, it's been fun watching them do it. Now they have been a little bit hectic with it because where it is the centennial year, we've actually had stuff going since about March, April, and so now you have school groups that would come in here to, you know, we put on like a little one-act reenactment. There's one or two people that play Brian and Darrow that just sort of show kids and homeschool kids whenever they come in for a tour what this was about. And so they'll have to move the seats out so they can come in and watch it, then move the seats back so they can go back to refinish.
Are they refinishing the floor out here as well?
Yes. So the floor here, even though it's taped up for now just so it can, you know, so people aren't always on it. But it looks exactly like that up there.
Yeah. Okay.
And like I said, you can only just imagine in 1925 all the people that were packed in this room.
Yeah.
One thing that we always talk about too, with it just being the heat and being packed, sometimes you wonder what it smelled like.
Well, there's that. Yeah. I'm sure they were more used to it back then, but golly, couldn't have been good. It has ceiling fans, didn't it? In this room? I think some of the pictures may have had those. I could be wrong, though.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember that off the top of my head, but I'd have to go back and look just to check.
But they would have had the windows open?
Yeah, they would have definitely had the windows open back in that time, for sure. Now, I have saw some pictures where they have little fans on the tables.
Maybe that's it.
And so I do know they had that. And then they had, of course, WGN. This was sort of like the first nationally broadcasted trial. And so WGN and people like that, they were set up here with their little microphones and things, recording and sort of relaying out in live time.
Was there a lot of equipment that they had other than just the microphone that you see in some of the pictures?
They had microphones. They had, I don't remember what all actually. Oh, I know that they built an airstrip about a mile outside of town so they could fly reels in and out. So I know that they filmed some things here too. And you can kind of, if you look on like History Channel and places like that, you can see a few videos. But a lot of the recordings, as far as like from the broadcast and things, to my knowledge, I don't know if any of those survived because we never heard any recordings.
Yeah, I mean, it was broadcast live.
Right.
But I don't know how they got it to someplace, how they did that back then.
It would be very neat to see if any recordings of it survived as far as, listen to them actually talking from back then.
Yeah. Huh.
But,
Well, pretty cool.